The following is me, Sarah Neela Elkins, reading chapters 7 and 8 of Book of CoL, The Ember Child, live on Friday, April 12th, 2024. There is strong language and violence in these chapters, so there are mature content warnings for them. Last time on Dragon Ball Z, on Book of CoL, if you're such an expert, Mr. Williams begins. Last time. This is from chapter 6, the end of chapter 6 of The Ember Child. If you're such an expert, Mr. Williams begins while crossing his arms. His words are biting. Then explain to us how our 10-year-old son has become a child of Loki. I don't look at the kid. Instead, I look at Starling. What happened last time you were here? When you met the kid and before you left? He smirks and waves at the child, who has now transformed his crab claw into several long purple octopus tentacles that flop around from his long-sleeved shirt cuff. Patrick did something like that after his parents demanded he show off his powers. I took the job and left. That's it? Why are you asking him questions? Mr. Williams asks. I ignore him. Patrick jumps on the seat of the couch, waving his octo arm around more while making rocket noises. Here is Patrick with his octo arm. Mrs. Williams, has Patrick always been this rambunctious? I ask. It takes her a moment to overcome her shock that I've addressed her before she answers. No, he hasn't been this naughty before. He used to want me to read to him at night and play with Pino. That was our dog. I thought it was because Pino was missing or because of the change. Patrick hops off the couch and waves his tentacles at Detective Windgate, who stares down at him impassively before the child moves on to try to scare me with his weird limb. He jumps a little when I just squat down to be eye level with him. I know I told Eugene I wouldn't use my powers, but I strengthen my body just in case. It won't be visible, and he's already got Starling driving, so maybe it'll work out if I have to use them for anything. What kind of dog was Pino? I ask. Pino's gone, Patrick says while smacking me in the face with the fleshy tentacles. What breed was Pino? What color was Pino? What does that matter? Mr. Williams asks angrily. You're supposed to be an expert in CoLs, and all you're doing is asking my son what color our dog was. I keep my eyes fixed on the kid, who's still batting me in the face with his shapeshifted hand. He's trying his hardest to be as annoying and weird as possible. Because this isn't your son. The Ember Child, Chapter 7, Part 1. We had a new volunteer show up 2 days ago. He has only referred to himself as Ash, and authorized me to include that name in any documentation, as it is not his given name. He has refused to provide us with any identifying papers. I'm not going to press it, since this study is supposed to be as anonymous as possible. There has to be a reason this older gentleman doesn't want to talk about his history. He seems kind, and has gotten along well with all the personnel, as well as the other CoLs on site. We ran him through the initial tests, and he has scored in the uppermost percentile. Book was pleased to learn they're not alone anymore. CoL Case Study 0001, Notes of Dr. Rose Hailu, November 1st, 2029. A shit ton of things happen after that. The kid's tentacles become longer and tipped with slightly curved steel blades, just before those squid sabers lash out at everyone and everything in the room. I managed to push Starling out of the way as I reshape my clothing to act as a shield, just hard enough for the weapons to skid across. The couch gets cut into pieces as the blades aim past it toward the parents, who stand stock still and stunned. I loosen up my left arm enough to stretch it out to knock the blade-tipped tentacles out of the way. kid tackles me, sending us both careening through one of the fully loaded bookshelves and the wall behind it. We slide across the marble floor a few feet. He slashes at my chest and guts to no effect, as I have kept up my added overall strengthening to myself and my clothing. I retract my arm and return it to normal, while I push the kid off of me a little more forcefully than I intended because I send him straight up through the ceiling. The house rattles as he lands on the next floor. Starling reaches the hole in the wall and shouts, "Go get him!" I can't say I don't agree with him. This guy just tried to kill 6 people, and may know where the actual Patrick's been taken. I nod and jump through the new skylight above me. A bit more of the house is damaged as I make the breach bigger on my way through. I see a body a few feet away on the floor near a bathroom door. Dust and debris fill the air, covering everything. The body starts to move. Tattered clothing sloughs off it as an adult person, assigned male, gets to their feet, no longer using the form of Patrick. They've returned to basic. I must have stunned them pretty good. They spit something out into the bathroom and wipe a bare arm across their eyes. Then all the dust and dirt just slides off of their skin, as their skin becomes glossy for a moment before returning to basic. They're a pretty buff pale guy with sandy brown hair, brown eyes, and a cleft chin. A bit of their left ear is missing at the top. Probably an old injury from before they became a CoL. I know I have scars I like to keep. Here is the illustration. "What did you do with the kid?" I ask. They shake their head. "Nah, let me go or we bring this whole house down." "Tell me where Patrick is," I say. They smile, and then they explode. I jump down the hole in the floor as a wave of flesh takes out walls. Swiftly, I grab Detective Windgate around the waist with one arm, then the Williamses with the other, which I've stretched out to wrap around them like a snake. I keep moving as the house continues to shudder above us and pull everyone with me as I kick through the bay window and run out into the front yard, then the driveway. I set the Williamses and Windgate down as the house creaks and begins to collapse in on itself. "I need to go back," I say quickly. "The butler!" Before I can do that, the house explodes away violently. I turn and shift my clothing to form a dome around the cowering couple and detective, strengthening it as much as I can. Wood, stone, metal, countless family belongings bang and bounce off the shield as the remnants of the house rain down on us. Don't worry, I'm not naked. It doesn't take long for the debris to stop falling. I pull my clothing back in, reshaping it into the suit I was wearing when I met Windgate at the hotel. The house is gone. Sirens start up in the distance. "Get in the car," Starling shouts at me while pushing a 2x4 with drywall still attached off the front windshield. "Hurry up, Simmons, he's getting away." I look at the Williamses. They're holding one another in shock. "What about them?" "The cops can deal with this shit," Starling shouts as he brushes some smaller debris from the car. "We have a kidnapper to find." Well, I guess he's not quitting this job. I run around to the passenger side and get in as Starling starts the car. He backs over chunks of house and pulls out into the street the opposite way we came in. "Did they go this way?" I ask. "No clue," Starling says. "I just need to get us away from here before the cops arrive." I narrow my eyes at him. "Why?" "Don't do well with cops," he says through clenched teeth. "Eugene's bad with CoLs. For me, it's cops." "I understand," I reply. I didn't see which way the guy went either. They could be anywhere, or anything. I don't like the idea of just leaving the Williams' house. It's not like we're going to be able to spot the culprit anywhere, naked or not. They could look like anyone or anything. If Starling has as much of a problem with police as Eugene does with CoLs, I understand his not wanting to stay. "What can you tell me about them?" he asks. They're at least a Class A, I say. I pause for a moment before asking, should I be telling you this? Me? He looks at me surprised. Oh, no, I'm fine with CoLs. Y'all are wild as shit, he says with a grin. He turns his attention back to the road as we approach a different gate than the one we came in. Not fine with one trying to kill us, however. Me either, I say. But it may be better if I handle this on my own, Starling. He hits a button on a keypad outside, and the gate opens to let us out into the road. Starling turns in the opposite direction of the approaching sirens. Not gonna happen, he says. Remember, we hired you. I'm pretty sure he'd agree not to now. We hired you. But Eugene was going to transfer this case to me, I say. I'm pretty sure he'd agree not to now that this is a kidnapping and attempted murder, he counters. I'll leave him some notes and let him call you about it later. He's out right now. You leave him notes? Yeah, he leaves me notes. Lucas too, he says. We don't always remember what the others do, for obvious reasons. We try to keep one another up to date in case we miss something the others caught. You don't seem surprised by any of this, by the way. It's kind of suspect. I've worked with Dr. Hailu for 10 years, off and on, I say. There's been more than a little work put into determining why there's never been a recorded case of a CoL with DID. Any conclusions you can share? He asks with a grin. I shake my head. Just theories, namely that they exist but shift, or they don't exist at all. Neither of us thinks the latter theory makes sense, by the way. Dr. Hailu could never get enough funding to stick with that line of study. It's a big mess. Like that house back there? Sort of, I say. Listen, I really don't want you forcing Eugene to stay on this case. I'm sure he's changed his mind, Starling says confidently. He'll call you if he hasn't. Everyone texts, I say. Then he'll text, he replies while rolling his eyes. What do we do now? I ask. I take you to your house or motel or wherever you're staying, he says. I missed most of your conversation with Eugene at the hotel. Little Asgard Heights, I say. It's a CoL exclusive apartment complex. You can drop me off a few blocks away. Great! I know where that is, Starling says while grinning. We avoid it like the plague. He looks at me and lets out a snort. That place, and the other one, and that CoL nightclub down on 6th Street. A CoL nightclub? Stick shifters, he says with a hiss, as he looks back at the road. Usually has some cops hanging around, but might be worth it to look there for clues in this case, actually. He tilts his head a bit. Maybe. Well, I don't think that's a good idea, I say. On second thought, Starling says, we're heading to that hotel room we booked. We can regroup there. Wait, what? I think the nightclub's a good idea, he says. Well, I don't. We don't even know who this person is or what they're into. They may not be the type who goes to a nightclub. I didn't even know this place existed until you told me. He tilts his head and grins. And yet you're the expert. Right. He has a point. I am an expert when it comes to using CoL powers and knowing what we're capable of. Not all of this social stuff. I have a few CoL friends, but most of them are from the studies, so it's online stuff. I made a CoL space page to keep in touch with them, even. I think I know how I can look the guy up, I say. And you're right about the hotel. Let's go there. After lunch, he says. I am starving. Come on. Why is it not loading? Ah, why is it doing that? Oop, okay. The Ember Child, Chapter 7, Part 2. Starling tosses his long coat on the bed after we enter the room. He stretches and yawns like a cat. I shut the door behind me and get my phone out to fire up the CoL Space app. You said you had an idea? Starling asks. I stay near the door, fiddling with my phone. Yeah. You know, you don't have to hide over there. I don't bite, he says with a grin. I look up. Sorry, Eugene didn't seem to like me in the room. That's him. This is me. Yeah, look, are you sure about keeping this case? I ask. I mean, you can always duck out and let me finish it if you or any of you need, okay? Starling lets out a huff of a laugh and then puts his arms out to the sides. What do you think I'm for? Right, sorry. I take a few steps into the room and then hold my phone up so he can see my homepage on CoL Space. My PFP is set to a drawing of a cat popping out of a carved pumpkin right now. This is my idea. CoL Space, I say. If the CoL who attacked us has a profile, I should be able to find it. He squints at my phone. Without a name or anything? I nod and tap off my homepage to one of the search functions. I don't like this idea one bit, but I haven't liked many things today. It's a means to an end. If the attacker has an account, I know we can find who they are using this. I need to do this privately, I say, and point to the bathroom. Starling tilts his head. Okay. I open the bathroom door. Seriously, you're gonna want to stay out here, I say, before locking myself in the restroom. Gods, this is gonna suck. I set my phone down and wash my hands. There's no real reason to be washing my hands, but the idea of what I'm about to do has me in knots. Not literal knots, thankfully. Still, it's strange. I'm used to shape-shifting feeling natural and normal, but the idea of this particular shift feels weirdly gross. I take a deep breath and relax my shoulders. Double-check that the door's still locked, and then focus on the CoL who had been pretending to be Patrick. Assuming the form they returned to before exploding into a flesh bomb was their basic, then they'd have to use it with their CoL ID information to register with CoL Space. I got a good look at them, longer than I'd need even to mimic them perfectly. I keep my clothes on, however. My reflection in the bathroom mirror is identical to the guy who attacked us, down to the bad ear and sandy brown hair. My clothing has shifted just enough to accommodate my new height and muscle mass. I feel like I'm wearing a wet sock. Like my whole body is that wet sock on a foot. Socks go on feet, right? But you can tell there's something not quite right when one of them is damp. Having one stretching noodle arm wrapped around the Williamses like a snake felt more natural to me than this. I know this feeling is not because I'm currently assigned male. Something else I can't quite put my finger on. This is somehow more gross than I thought it would be, I think to myself as I pick up the phone and switch to camera mode. I take a couple selfies before quickly shifting back to basic with a shudder. Then I pop open the CoL Space app on the search menu and select Basic Photo Friend Search. Dude's probably not even in here, I mutter as I upload the first photo and hit enter. The search runs for a few seconds and lights up with a match. Shit. I read over the guy's CoL Space page. Martin Aaron, he, him, age 43. His page is public. I don't even have to add him as a friend to see his wall, photos, or anything else he's posted. His photos are of him with some other people, some visibly shifted CoLs, others not, in crowded areas with sometimes shitty lighting. He's tagged himself in the photos and has a different look in each time. Most are related to sea creatures, but still humanoid. Martin's last updates were just before Patrick supposedly gained powers. One post mentions getting a, quote, new job that would keep him very busy for a while. I use the bathroom and wash my hands again. My skin still feels like it's crawling from copying the guy. I double check to make sure it's not actually crawling. I don't have this feeling of disgust because the guy favors seafood. I've shifted most of the animals he's done without having a problem like this. I make a mental note to mention this dysphoric shift to Dr. Hailu the next time we chat. I've got something, I call from the bathroom before exiting. Detective Windgate is looking at a small moleskin notebook with a sour expression on his face. Are you okay? I ask. Starling says you've got a lead? He says without looking up. Eugene? Yeah, shoot, he says tersely. I stay quiet for a moment, my phone in hand and lips pursed closed. I mean, tell me what you've got, Eugene explains. You're really not going to just pass this case on to me now, are you? I ask weakly. I'm not, he says, eyes still on the notebook. Starling's right. This is a kidnapping and attempted murder. Did you get the butler out? I shake my head and then remember he's still not looking at me. No, Starling had us leave before I had a chance to look for him. He said we needed to go before the cops got there. He nods. Good. Better we don't have to deal with the police. I don't ask him to elaborate. Instead, I tell him my lead. I found the guy on CoL Space. His name's Martin Aaron. He looks up at me in surprise. You found his name? On social media? Already? How did you do that? I'd rather not talk about it, I reply. Also, it's probably best you don't look at the guy's photos. They've got a lot of shifted coals in them, and half of the time he's a lobster, he offers. Yeah, dude has a thing for seafood. Any clue about when they were taken or where? The last ones were right before you were hired, I think. About a week and a half ago or so, I say, looking at the latest photos. There's no location tags on them that I can find using the app. Oh, shit. As I scroll up to the top of Martin's page, a little bar appears that says, 3 new posts! Holy shit, I say. What? This guy's an idiot, I reply. The 3 latest posts are photos of Martin, with one crab claw hand, red carapace covering most of his flesh, and antennae that disappear into the glare of overhead lights. He sits in a booth surrounded by partially shifted coals and colorful drinks. Me and the boys are back at Stick Shifters, partying all fucking night long, I read out loud. Eugene hops the bed and hurries over to me. I start to cover my phone screen, but he brushes my hand away. Let me see, he says. I'm fine. I show him the posts. You're right. This guy's a complete idiot. The Ember Child, Chapter 8. January 1st, 2021, New Year's resolution. I'm going to keep a journal. Let's see if I stick with it. Lol. January 10th, 2029. Off to a great start with this journal thing. January 11th, 2029. 2 days in a row. Go me! January 30th, 2029. I got busy with work. Melanie's girlfriend, young me, is cute. She came by to visit last week. February 14th, 2029. Happy Valentine's Day, little journal. Heart, 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 heart. February 17th, 2029. Holy shit, I don't know what's going on. This morning I woke up and I didn't know anything was wrong. Melanie nearly stabbed me with a fucking sword. I can't blame her for it. I'm trying not to lose my mind with the rest of the world. Things are bad. Our town doesn't seem to be having any problems, but the cops have ramped up patrols. They've been announcing with bullhorns that people are to remain indoors because of an infectious disease, but I know that's not the truth. I'm not sure what's going on, but this can't be contagious or Melanie would have been affected. The news is horrifying right now, and social media was too much for me to look at for long, so I can't look away, but I can't look away entirely. What the fuck is happening? Cops have killed people. Not even just people with these weird powers, but just anyone who's gotten in the way. People with powers have accidentally killed others. I don't know what to do other than hide. What the fuck? Am I? There has to be an answer to this. There has to be an explanation. I seem to have my powers under control already, so why don't other people? Is it just panic? Personal Journal of Page Simmons, Volume 1, pages 1 through 3. You need to be in that club tonight, Eugene says while pacing. He waves a hand at me without looking my direction. And you can't go in there looking like that. I'm not going to look like a lobster, I say. God, no, he says, and stops to stare at me. Please don't do that. I don't think it's a very good plan, but I pause to glance at my phone. I mean, the guy is right there, just screaming, I tried to kill you, come pick me up. If anything, this seems like a trap. He has no way to know you could find him, right? Sites like that are supposed to be secure, Eugene says. I don't know how you did it, and I don't want to know. No problem there, I say. What about you? Starling said y'all avoid this place, and I quote, like the plague. He's right. I'll have to drop you off and wait, he says. I've got a spare earpiece we can pair with your phone. He looks at his wristwatch. It's already 8 at night. I hate losing time. How long were you with Starling? We stopped for burgers after a while, and then he drove around a bit and said something about it being in case we had a tail or something. Did you see anyone following you? No. I got the feeling he just wanted to go for a drive, I say. I used to do that when I needed to think. Eugene lets out a little huff of a laugh. It's something both he and Starling do. He relaxes his shoulders as he smiles. It's not as much of a grin as when Starling does it, a bit more shaky and tired. I can't blame him for being tired. It's been a long day, and now it's about to be even longer. Any word from the Williamses family? I ask. No, he says. I texted them that we're still trying to find the guy, but didn't get a response. No news on the butler either. Maybe you should get some sleep, I say. I can come back in a couple hours and you can drop me off at the night. No, he says more firmly. We need to do this while we know the guy's there. He may not stay as long as his post claims. He could get kicked out for being an asshole. We need to go as soon as possible and you need to shift. Okay, I say, and then start heading towards the bathroom. Where are you going? Bathroom, I say at the door. You don't want to watch me change. I really don't, he agrees. I make sure the door's locked. Sure, Eugene might not want to see me shapeshift, but Starling could have other ideas. He certainly seems more comfortable around Coles than Eugene does. Not that the flimsy lock would keep either of them out. I put my phone on the counter and pulled my keys and wallet out of my clothing. Everything's still in good shape. I made sure they were protected in the pockets when I shifted my clothing at the Williams house, but one can never be too careful. I'm glad my clothes took the shapeshifts well. Even the inexpensive shirt held up, though it did keep it close to my body and as a shirt and tie. In the last 24 hours, I've used my powers more than the last several months. And here I go again. I scroll through Martin Aaron's photos. He's mostly with masculine people, yet occasionally there's a feminine serving person, in a few cases, strippers near him. Most of the femme people don't look particularly taken with the guy, including the strippers who are presumably being paid to be there. I understand them wanting to be anywhere else. No way am I getting close to the guy while I have boobs. Dude seems grabby. He could piss me off enough for me to lose my cool and blow my cover. I know just which form to start with. I shapeshift quickly, which causes my clothing to make a snapping noise from the movement as I simultaneously increase my height and build. Nothing I'm wearing has torn. Now, I'm not far off from Martin's build, yet this is mine. This form is me, and it feels right. It's actually the very first shapeshift I ever did, and I hadn't known I had done anything at the time. I didn't notice for more than an hour after waking up on February 17th. I had slept in that day. I even used the restroom and cooked breakfast without noticing I had transformed. I was halfway through eating my bacon when Melanie confronted me with one of her swords before I knew anything was up. She thought I was some home invader who had stolen her friend's clothing. It was weird. I mean, I knew my pajamas felt a little too tight and short and chafed weirdly, but as far as I was aware, they had shrunk. Yeah, this isn't going to work, I say. There's no way I'm going to use my own face to confront the guy again, even after I've shifted. My face hasn't changed much. I look like myself, just another version of me. Taller, assigned male, masculine, fit to the point of being a little buff. I'm not always this muscular, but today I'm feeling it. My hair is the same light color as my basic, and my haircut is still short with a buzzed undercut. Even my green eyes are the same, and my nose is just as prominent and slightly hooked like normal. I really like my nose. Even Melanie said I looked like myself that day, just different, I think to myself. She had mentioned that after I insisted I was me, Paige. Once she really got a good look, she realized I was telling the truth. I had just transformed into a man somehow. I had also been confused about that and almost argued that I already was one before I realized what she meant and managed to return to my basic form. An experienced CoL like Martin Aaron might realize I'm the same person from the Williams house, even if he is foolish enough to post selfies at the nightclub after trying to kill at least 7 people. I get to work on my face and hair, subtly altering my ears, cheekbones, jawline, everything. I shrink my nose down a little too far and decide to keep it that way as I widen the distance between my eyes, and then go the other direction and push them a bit closer together instead. I also make my irises blue and lengthen my hair as I change it to a sick sea green. When I'm done fucking up my face, I want to punch myself. I shift my voice to make it a little deeper than normal. Then I change my clothing to mimic some of the items similar to what Martin's friends were wearing. Baggy dark-colored pants, expensive sneakers, a button-up t-shirt with an oversized gray and black hoodie that looks a little less oversized than it is, thanks to my current frame. I add a neon yellow stripe to the hoodie sleeve and shake my head at my reflection. Yep, I want to punch myself in the fucking face. None of this feels like when I copied Martin. This feels like it's still me, just with some rather regrettable yet temporary modifications. I gather my belongings and put them in the interior pocket of my hoodie before shaking my head again and reaching for the door. I freeze. Will this be too much for Eugene? He was the one insisting I shapeshift. I'm about to come out, I say loud enough that he can hear me through the door. Got it, Eugene replies. I walk back into the hotel room and brace myself. To my surprise, Eugene studies me. He even puts his chin in his hand as he looks me over from head to feet. I stand still as he approaches. I'm a couple inches taller than him now. That's so weird, he says. What is? I ask. I thought I'd feel different, he explains. Looking at you, I mean, you look completely different, but somehow you feel the same. I furrow my brow a bit. He takes a step back and gestures at me. I mean, I know logically you were about a foot shorter and a completely different gender expression a few minutes ago, but somehow you don't seem like you've changed at all. Well, now I'm a bit offended, I say. I worked really hard to give myself a very punchable face. I laugh, so he knows I'm not actually upset. Are you okay, Eugene? Surprisingly, I am, he replies in wonder. And here's punchable Paige. And that is the end of chapter 8. If you've enjoyed listening to me read chapters 7 and 8 of Book of CoL, the Ember Child, please like and subscribe. You can also read the entire story on Tapas for free. Thank you for tuning in.